Hi, I'm Rita Wilkins, also known as the Downsizing Designer. So tonight's topic, which is 10 warning signs that you have too much stuff, was actually inspired by a call from a woman who was pretty desperate. It was a few weeks ago, and she finally realized that she just had too much clutter, and the clutter was a real issue in her life, and that she had been denying it and actually ignoring it. So one night, and this is how the call went, she told me that she drove up to her house. She parked in her driveway because she knew there was too much stuff in the garage for her to fit the car in. And that prevented her from going any further than just the driveway. And as she got out of the car, she felt a lump in her throat because she realized that she actually dreaded going into her own house, because messes were everywhere. She knew that she would have to step over stuff just to get through. And as difficult as that call was for her to make, she was finally ready to admit that she needed to do something about it to disrupt that crazy cycle and dealing with just too much stuff. But first, she had to admit that she was clear about what was affecting her, how the clutter was impacting her physically, emotionally, and mentally. So here's what she kind of discovered during our conversation. Number one is that she was ashamed of how messy her house was, how it made her feel, how it made her family feel, excuse me, and it was so overwhelming that she didn't know where to start, so she didn't start at all. It had been growing worse and worse for over a year. The second thing she discovered was that she was embarrassed. She rarely invited people into her house, even her family, nor did her children. So she was so afraid of being judged by them. And if she did want to meet with friends, then she would meet them at a coffee shop or at a restaurant. The third thing she discovered was she felt so disorganized, and she could never find what she needed when she needed it. And it created a lot of family arguments. And there were always misplacing things like the remote, the keys, the glasses, whatever. And what she said is she has no real place for any of that kind of stuff. So they kept misplacing it. The fourth thing she discovered was how frustrated she felt, because every time she wanted to sit down, she'd have to move stuff off of that chair or the sofa. And if she would have to move stuff off the counter if she wanted to cook. The fifth thing she discovered was she felt wasteful. She was buying things that she already had. When she couldn't find something, she would just go out and buy it again and replace it. So it was food, it was batteries, it was clothing, pantry items, things like that. And then only to find it a little bit later on. Now, the next thing she discovered is how she felt so unproductive, whether she was sitting in her office. She just realized she was just wasting way too much time looking for stuff, straightening piles, trying to find clothing to wear in a closet, and she was stressed out because of the amount of time that it was taking her, and because all that time was being wasted. Next thing she discovered is how exhausted it was. The whole thing was she was tired of having to try to find stuff, trying to organize it, and trying to clean it, and she lost all of her motivation. She lost energy because she realized the more she did, it just wasn't getting anywhere, and it just continued to get worse and worse. The next thing she discovered is how stuck she was. Her closets and her drawers were bulging. She tried to declutter, and she would find things she didn't even remember that she had, but she continued to buy more. And number 9, big discoveries here, she was constantly complaining. And she realized she needed to do something about that because she was making herself miserable and everyone else around her miserable. So she called, and she had been listening to some of my videos and reading some of my blogs and the things that I write. And she finally just said, enough is enough. She had too much stuff. She realized it, and it was actually making her sick. So she made the decision to declutter, to get her life back. And the answer was not more plastic bins. The answer was not getting a storage unit to put her stuff in. The answer was actually admitting that she had too much stuff, admitting the impact that it was having on her life, and to create a master plan, a timeline, a team of helpers, someone to hold her to account. And she also realized that she needed some help. So making that call was the first big step that she took to disrupt that crazy cycle of way too much stuff. Her vulnerability is certainly admirable because she did try to deny it for a very long time until she realized that she was at a breaking point. So perhaps you can identify with some of these concerns that she had about having too much stuff and how it was the impact that it was having on her life. And she was lucky to have received that wake-up call. And so here are 10 warning signs that might tell you that you have too much stuff too. So you can start reducing the amount of possessions by decluttering, so you can begin to live and embrace a more minimalist life, a simpler life with less stuff and actually more meaning. The first, I'm sorry, I'm very hoarse today. The first warning sign is when you say you can't find what you want when you need it because there's not enough space for all of your stuff. Well, obviously, if you declutter, you'll have more space for your stuff. The second warning sign that says you have too much stuff is you don't know where to start because there's just so much, and so you're overwhelmed. The third warning sign is you find stuff you don't remember you even had, and maybe you haven't even used it in a long time or you ever used it. And number 4 is you're embarrassed and you're ashamed of the amount of clutter that you have in your home, how it makes you feel, how it makes your family feel, and the fact that you don't want to have family or friends in your house. The next warning sign that you have too much stuff is that you're frustrated because you never seem to get caught up. The cleaning, the organizing, and all of the things that you have to do when you have way too much, and you're just tired of it. Number 6 is you have no idea what's inside some of those storage bins that are in your basement, your attic, your garage. You haven't seen them in years, and you have no idea what's there, but they're taking up a lot of space. Number 7 is you never seem to have enough space for all of it. So you do get a storage unit to store that extra stuff in. And an average cost of a storage unit is about $110 a month. That's kind of a lot of money for stuff. If you started decluttering the things you don't want, you don't need, you don't use, you probably don't need to spend that kind of money. Number 8 is you have things that you never use, they don't fit, that you've inherited that you don't even want, they've been gifted to you. So those are the kind of things that will show that you have too much clutter, and it might be time for you to start decluttering. Another warning sign that you have too much stuff is you can't decide because your closet's so full, nothing fits, or very little of it fits. Maybe it's not even fitting your lifestyle any longer. And number 10, a warning sign that you have too much stuff is that your piles of paperwork, the clothing, the junk mail, the magazines, whatever it is, they keep getting higher and higher. So these are just some symptoms of having a little bit too much stuff. If any of these statements resonate with you, it's likely that you have too much, and you might consider decluttering one closet, one shelf, one drawer at a time. If you do need help, I do offer a very limited amount of coaching to clients, but But if you're interested, just email me at ritawilkins@ritawilkins.com, and we could set up a call to discuss how I might be able to help you. And then another option would be you might want to consider purchasing my brand new workbook. It's called Rita's Minimalist Essentials. It's now available on Amazon for only $19.99. So what you can expect to get out of that is it's a 60-page workbook, and I'm calling it a companion because it's you basically, I work with you almost side by side in that workbook. There is a decluttering decision-making tree. It's a process that shows you how to decide on what to let go of, what to keep. A 5-step guide on that will help you let go of emotional clutter. There's a room-by-room decluttering checklist. There's kind of a fun closet clean-out checklist that I get a kick out of every time I use it. There's a 30-day minimalist challenge. And there's progress tracker, which holds you to account so that you continue when you don't get discouraged, you keep moving forward. And then there's a number of decluttering methods that are my favorites that work. And then there's also a list of 100 places to donate. So you might want to consider getting one for yourself if you need it. And it's also kind of a good gift for those friends or family who that might need to declutter, and they probably have too much stuff. So I hope this is helpful. Always reach out to me, Rita Wilkins at ritawilkins.com. And as I started out this video, the reason this topic came up was because of a call that someone made to me about a lot of concerns she had and the fear actually that set in because she had too much stuff. I hope this helps.